Yeah, I'm going with Suffocation, Spears from Within.
Huh.
The third album, probably the most actually suffocating album of theirs. Just that it's a wall of low end sound, that entire album. When I'd completely forgotten it was a 95 album until Faizan mentioned it, because this used to be on constant, and I mean constant rotation for me, especially growing up and getting into extreme
Most of
metal
us, I
drumming.
think.
The number of
So
hours we have spent just discussing that intro drums of Pierce from Within, Rakshit and I,
yeah, I
2015.
even had like long ago, I had a very embarrassing cover of it on Facebook as well on the but yeah, like it's the rhythm section on that album, I think, is some of the most you can compare it to like Fear Factory's demanufacture, kind of like just how tight and solid it is. But what differentiates it for me is also how fluid it is at the same time. It's sort of like so tight, but also has those moments where they let go, like they let loose, sort of like the tempo drops, like the tempo changes here and there, and like the riffs suddenly, like one moment they're playing a riff for like 7 measures, and then they don't finish it on the eighth. They come and then and before you know it, it's another riff, another like section that's going to blow your mind. And interestingly, it's the first album that doesn't have Mike Smith on drums. It's Doug Bourne on drums. Uh, that guy, I don't know where he just created one masterpiece of an album on drums, and he just fucked off somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, songs like the title track "Pierce from Within," and especially this one song, "Suspended in Tribulation." The bass, like, just you can hear Dub Cheritos attack just constantly. It's like gnawing into your ear, like, and it's sort
Thrones
of
of Blood.
Thrones of Blood. Yeah,
That's something
exactly.
They have an acoustic intro in that fucking album.
Yeah,
Torn into Enthrallment. They have like a
yeah,
fucking
Torn to Enthrallment. Yeah, exactly. And it's such a dark album, like
Great
overall, just in
dynamics
terms of,
also, I would like to add. It
yeah,
flows well. There's ups and downs. Phenomenal riffs, very fast, very
Very easy.
technical, brutal,
Very easy.
yeah,
equally technical, brutal, and very musical drum arrangements over them.
yeah,
Awesome
because
vocals.
it's not just straight up, like we say dabba dabba. It's not that. It's got a whole lot of nuance and context to it, and like I was saying, it's dark, man. Like the album feels oppressive when you listen to it.
I
And
Yeah.
the
also think
lyrics
it's Frank Mullen's best moment, and he's a legendary vocalist. He's been doing it for like 30 years.
and
But
the
I
lyrics,
think
man.
that
Like,
is his best work as a vocalist. The vocal phrasing is almost like rap. He was
yeah,
doing he's essentially doing like polyrhythms and stuff like that. It's essentially rapping is what he's doing, and it's just insane. And the only person, I'm sorry, this is like a very unfair comparison to make, but the only and probably I'll get thumped for it. The only person who was doing this prior to this, and my first thing was I was thinking of Benton, because Benton was doing something similar in the first two Dayside albums, and that is my daily Dayside plug of the day.
Very low guttural also.
Exactly.
Frank Mullen.
Yeah.
Huge influence. Huge influence on me.
like
Apart from him, at that time, Chris Barnes, of course, Fisher, and then Lord Worm from Cryptopsy. These guys were doing that ultra low guttural in death metal that were defining and setting the standards for what low death metal guttural should be, while having that percussive chop to it.
Yeah, I was talking about the percussive thing only, which was like, especially in Legion, you know, uh,
Mm.
that the vocal phrasings there is,
I
I
was
think,
talking about
still to
Frank
this
Miller.
day is fucking gold standard.
It's a
and
full punch to your face sort of feels. Even
yeah,
like
yeah,
Pierce from Within proper, it's like you're listening to it, but you feel like
Yeah,
yeah,
you can feel the
exactly.
violence.
And
it's
sorry,
You can almost feel the violence. I think Rakshit, you mentioned those transitional mid-tempo changes and how it all flows, right?
yeah,
So It's really like, gets in your face.
And something that kind of stood out for me also was in the death metal scene at that time. Like, I mean, in that particular, that brutal death metal scene, two bands stood out lyrically. One was obviously Cryptopsy, Lord Worm, and I'm pretty sure he never actually did any of. He never followed the actual lyrics, but Suffocation, however, like this, the Pierce from Within was just on another level of like just darkness in the lyrics. It's got like
Yeah.
haunting lyrics to it. Almost, he touches upon like the themes like depression, anxiety, even, and like he turns it into some brutal like he paints a pretty brutal picture with it, and I think that's pretty cool. Like it's not just about like oh, like I found this person, I abducted them, took them home, and then chopped them up into a million pieces. It wasn't just that box standard like brutal death metal lyrics.
Even
So that
live, they were incredible. It's, I have no words to describe. One of the heaviest bands I've seen. Super tight, super clean, super brutal.
Yeah, I'm a Mike Smith loyalist, so in all honesty, I would not be able to watch them.
I thought the same. For me, it was Frank Millen all the way, but I used to, before the gig, I was in thinking I may not like it because Frank Millen's not there. Yes, his absence was felt, but the band made it up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like if they had continued to play a little longer, the stage would have collapsed. I'm sure technically it may not have, but it felt like it.
It's yeah, and the guitar solos again. Last thing that I'm gonna touch about this album is the solos, man. Because before that, FEG, I think the solos were just very Kerry King like almost. It felt like very chromatic and bizarre, like. But with in Pierce from Within, there was a lot more. Almost like a thought process behind the solos that were written. Like maybe not on all tracks again, but at least more than not on the album. So yeah, my first pick. It was really hard, like for me to like to pick which album to talk about first, but Suffocation takes it for me, man.
Yeah, all time death metal classic or brutal death metal if you want to call it, or call it whatever you want, but total classic. Also, before we move on to the next pick, Rakshit's got a gig with X Repeat X on the 11th of May in Bangalore. It's happening in Brigade Road at this place called By Chance. So, anyone watching this, if you're watching this before the 11th, go to the gig, support the local scene,
Get to see
and
Terence
yeah,
Hobb at a
have a
very
good one.
reasonable rate.
What?
Get to see Terence Hobbs at a very reasonable rate with X Repeat X.